Okay. Actually made it to Devlog number 2. Here we are. The overall doesn't look too different except for this whole thing over here. I'll show off right now. It's a star portal, space portal, wormhole, Stargate. I don't know. I haven't actually figured out what the name should be, but I wanted this, plus a nice looking transition to be the primary way of getting to another star system. Or at least to get to any other star system. I'm still debating whether or not I want to have it that you can jump between nearby star systems in your ship, but then, there's only going to be clusters of star systems that are close by, and to actually get to unlock extra places, you need to fly through these things, which haven't really finished yet. I want to have like a nice little like sucking in effect, like things will get sucked in, and then as you get in the middle, boop, transition, and you come out over here. But I don't have a good way yet of making it so that once you've popped out here, that you don't just immediately get sucked back in and you end up in an infinite loop, which would be not very useful at all. All right. Now, second thing I've done is added another little silly animation. Let's see if hopefully it works. Yeah, you can see it now. Yeah, you got spun around too much. You got dizzy. Definitely was worth spending some time on that. I primarily thought it would be useful for this situation where you're in this and some sort of circular, and you really get going and then you get all dizzy. In theory, the NPC should get dizzy too, but trying to get the NPC to spin around enough is tricky. Anyway, it's just an animation. I thought it'd be fun to add in. Try to add some little extra feels. That's not right. Some extra juice. Yeah, there's a word for it. Anyway, next thing I've done is added in some memory tracking. As you can see, as I move around, events are being generated, which causes memory to be allocated and then freed again. Ideally, I would want this number to be 0, but at the moment, one of the ways that I'm checking for this star portal is I need to allocate at least a little bit of memory. At least at the moment. I'm still figuring out the best way to handle figuring out what ships and all that are nearby. And I've got a lambda with a callback. But anyway, let's get into more details than necessary. Basically, this is the one thing that's allocating some memory at the moment. But this was and this is per frame, so this is like 60 times a second. That's allocating 40 bytes, which is not much. But anyway, previously though, I was allocating nearly 5 kilobytes per frame, which is like some much larger number. Whatever 5 kilobytes times 60 is. Well, like 300. No, that's. Anyway, a bunch. I'll figure out the maths later. It's getting a little late. Yeah, this number of locks here. So this is all related. So I'm using SFML right now. It's going to fly around in the background. I'm using SFML in C++, and internally it has, it's a generic framework that supports a whole bunch of things, and unfortunately, or fortunately, it's got all sorts of thread protection. Now, this game is never going to be multi-threaded. Certainly not to do with rendering. And so it does a whole lot of locking in the background. In fact, this was doing over 500 locks a frame, which didn't have as big a performance impact as I thought it might, but that's a different thing. So that's the number that's there, but I've actually commented out the code that's actually doing any locking. I kind of just want to see how many times in theory it's supposed to be locking. Now, I don't know if I'm missing something, if there's some actual reason in a single threaded application why you would need to be doing 500 locks a frame, so that times 60 locks a second. But I'm almost certain that you don't need those locks in a non-multi-threaded application. So, yeah, anyway. So I can probably get rid of this because I'm just going to get rid of locking altogether. So another thing I fixed up is I wasn't actually doing release builds. You can see in the bottom right, see right here, 1.9 megabytes now, which is still maybe a bit bigger than what I thought, but this was 6.5 meg before. And I looked into the binary and there's all sorts of stuff in there and I'm like, this seems still way too big. But now it's actually being compiled with O3 optimizations in GCC, which is nice. So for the memory tracking, I thought I'd show what I've done so far. At the moment, it's a bit primitive still. I'm globally overriding the delete operator and the new operator. In the delete operator's case, I have to override the void pointer that also takes a size, as well as just a void pointer variant. As the new, at least in GCC, the new allocator will use this one here, which doesn't tell you the original size, which then meant I needed to look up the the size that malloc down here actually allocated. And then I need to use this malloc usable size for the amount of memory that was actually allocated in the new and delete portion. Otherwise, this total memory allocated wasn't adding up. And it was getting weird numbers, and I'm like, I'm sure I don't have a memory leak, but just in case. Thankfully, I do not have a memory leak, at least not at the moment. So I've just got some of these numbers tied into a static thing for memory stuff over here. Ideally, it's the kind of thing where you would only really want this stuff handled, everything handled by the engine itself, but kind of been a bit lazy at the moment. Mostly because this is supposed to be a small game. It's supposed to be. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see how that goes. Anyway, you can see the game up here. It's called Simple Space. It's actually not called Space Doggo. Because initially I was like, maybe I should stop trying to challenge? Stop trying to tackle this Space Doggo game and just go with a separate thing. But it turned back into Space Doggo pretty quick. Yeah. So another big thing I did was, where is everything? I added in my own external custom build of SFML. Now you may be wondering, why did I bother to do that? Again, that was so that, lock. See here, I wanted to just like hook into this to see how many locks were being used. And then I want to see what would happen if I actually just commented this out. And yeah, like this is pretty hacky. Like it's not the best, but I kind of just wanted to see, like, if I do this, what happens? And so far, nothing's exploding. So I think I need to properly custom build this and maybe just be like, don't need locks, get rid of them. I also went through and got rid of FLAC support, which again was kind of just to see if the build size would get smaller, because I'm never going to use FLAC. I'm probably never going to use WAV either, because like, don't need any of that. Don't even need sound recording, all this sort of stuff. That I'm like, I could just take this out, trying to make the build a bit smaller, but that's kind of like neither here nor there. Anyway, so that's what I've been doing. That's devlog number 2. Hopefully in the next one, kind of want to have a transition for that star portal, space warpy thing. We'll see. Anyway, see you in the next one.